The morning of March 22, 1943, dawned cold and gray over the Luftwaffe command post at Chalons-sur-Marne in occupied France. General Major Adolf Galland, commander of Germany's fighter forces, stood before a map studded with colored pins marking recent bomber intercepts. His iron cross gleamed in the lamplight as he studied the intelligence reports with a mixture of irritation and disdain. The previous week, American B-24 Liberators had attempted another daylight raid into the Reich's industrial heartland. 12 had been shot down. Galland permitted himself a thin smile as he read the debriefing notes from his pilots. "Sloppy formations," one reported. "Poor defensive coordination. These factory-built aircraft handle like trucks." Another pilot had written with aristocratic contempt. "They build them like Fords. They fly like Fords." The comment drew laughter when Galland shared it with his staff officers, who raised glasses of captured French wine in sardonic toast to American industrial optimism. Outside, the wind carried the distant throb of aero engines. The sound was becoming familiar, almost routine. Too routine, perhaps. None of them yet understood that the joke was on them. The German confidence was not without foundation. By early 1943, the Luftwaffe had built its reputation through 6 years of tactical innovation and operational success. Their pilots were veterans of Poland, France, and the savage skies over Russia. They flew purpose-built aircraft designed by engineers who understood that every rivet, every curve of aluminum carried the weight of German precision and craftsmanship. The Focke-Wulf FW-190A6, entering service that spring, represented the apex of this philosophy. 9,300 man-hours of skilled labor produced each fighter, with tolerances measured in hundredths of millimeters and engines hand-assembled by master mechanics. German military doctrine held that quality would always triumph over quantity, that superior training and engineering could overcome numerical disadvantage. They had proved this axiom from Warsaw to Stalingrad. When intelligence reports began arriving in late 1942 describing a massive American bomber plant constructed inside an automobile factory in Michigan, the response among Luftwaffe leadership ranged from skepticism to outright mockery. Oberstleutnant Hannes Trotloff, a decorated ace with 58 victories, captured the prevailing sentiment when he remarked to fellow officers, "Let them make their bombers on conveyor belts. We will shoot them down just as quickly as they roll off the line." What none of them fully grasped was the nature of the transformation occurring 3,600 miles away in Ypsilanti Township, Michigan. The Willow Run bomber plant, designed by Albert Kahn and operated by Ford Motor Company under contract to the War Department, was not simply an aircraft factory. It was the physical manifestation of Henry Ford's revolutionary insight that complex products could be reduced to sequences of simple, repeatable operations performed by workers who required minimal training. The building itself defied conventional imagination, 67 acres under a single roof, forming an L-shaped structure 3,500 feet long and 1,280 feet wide. The main assembly line stretched for 1 mile, and every component, every subassembly, every inspection station had been choreographed with ruthless efficiency. Charles Sorensen, Ford's production chief, had studied the B-24's 30,000 individual parts and redesigned the manufacturing process to accommodate automobile production techniques. Where traditional aircraft plants required skilled craftsmen hand-fitting components over weeks or months, Willow Run employed precision jigs, dedicated tooling stations, and synchronized subassembly lines that fed the main production sequence with metronome regularity. The first B-24 EFO Liberator, serial number 41 to 28463, rolled off Willow Run's line on September 10, 1942, after months of agonizing delays and skepticism from Army Air Forces procurement officers who doubted Ford's methods. But by January 1943, the rhythm had been found. Production climbed from 15 aircraft per month to 31. In February, the number reached 75. March saw 104 Liberators completed. The workforce, which eventually peaked at 42,000 employees, included thousands of women who had never touched a rivet gun or read a blueprint before Pearl Harbor. Rose Monroe, who became the face of Rosie the Riveter, worked the night shift installing metal fasteners with pneumatic tools that rattled her bones. She and her coworkers learned to drive 3,350 rivets per aircraft, working from detailed instruction cards that broke complex tasks into simple steps. The factory operated 24 hours daily across 3 shifts. Raw aluminum entered at one end, armed, fueled, and fully operational bombers emerged from the other every 63 minutes by May 1943. The Luftwaffe first began noticing something had changed during the missions of April and May. Major Egon Mayer, commander of 3 Gruppe of Jagdgeschwader 2, filed a combat report after intercepting a formation of B-24DS over the Belgian coast on April 17, 1943. His FW-190 had destroyed 2 bombers with head-on attacks, but Mayer noted with growing unease. Enemy numbers larger than previous month. Formations better organized. Aircraft appear identical in manufacture, suggesting single production source. We are shooting down aircraft faster than we anticipated, yet their numbers do not diminish. If anything, they increase. Intelligence officers cross-referenced Mayer's observations with reports from other Geschwader. The pattern was undeniable. American heavy bomber losses in March 1943 totaled 97 aircraft destroyed over occupied Europe. German staff officers calculated this should have significantly degraded 8th Air Force capabilities. Instead, May raids involved larger formations than March. The mathematics made no sense according to conventional understanding of aircraft production. By June 1943, the horrifying truth became unavoidable. Luftwaffe intelligence obtained fragments of captured American logistics documents that referenced production rates at the Willow Run facility. The numbers seemed impossible. 365 B-24 Liberators completed in May alone. That translated to more than 1 bomber every 2 hours, around the clock. General Oberst Hans Jeschneck, chief of the Luftwaffe General Staff, reviewed the intelligence with mounting alarm. German bomber production across all types had totaled 220 aircraft in May. The Americans were producing more 4-engine heavy bombers from a single factory than Germany was producing total aircraft from dozens of plants. When Jeschneck presented these figures to Hermann Göring, the Reichsmarschall reportedly refused to believe them, insisting the numbers must represent cumulative production or include trainers and other aircraft types. Göring's denial could not alter reality. The B-24s kept coming, wave after wave, their olive-drab fuselages and bright markings multiplying across English airfields like some industrial plague. The psychological impact on German fighter pilots became acute by autumn 1943. Lieutenant Heinz Nock, flying with Jagdgeschwader 11, recorded in his diary on October 14, the day of the catastrophic Schweinfurt raid. "We shot down 60 of their bombers today. 60! By any measure, a devastating victory. Yet this evening, intelligence briefing confirms they will return tomorrow with equal numbers. How is this possible? Where do these aircraft come from? We destroy them faster than we ever believed possible, and still they darken our skies. The Americans have found some secret we do not understand." The secret was no mystery to the workers streaming through Willow Run's gates each shift change. By October 1943, the plant was completing 428 B-24s monthly, with production climbing toward peak output. Each aircraft required 31,400 pounds of aluminum, 8,000 pounds of steel, and components sourced from 1,500 suppliers across 44 states. Ford's logistics system coordinated this supply chain with railroad precision, ensuring that parts arrived at exact workstations at exact moments. The famous story, perhaps apocryphal but spiritually true, held that if a shipment of landing gear assemblies ran 2 hours late, production supervisors would already be calling alternative suppliers before the scheduled installation time arrived. The climax of this industrial drama unfolded during the brutal winter of 1943 to 1944. In December alone, Willow Run delivered 436 B-24 Liberators to the Army Air Forces. The cumulative production since September 1942 exceeded 3,000 aircraft. German fighter forces were bleeding experienced pilots at unsustainable rates trying to stem the bomber tide. General Major Adolf Galland, the same officer who had mocked American production methods 18 months earlier, now found himself arguing desperately for jet fighter development and defensive reallocation. In January 1944, he submitted a remarkable memorandum to Göring acknowledging, "The American production advantage has proven decisive. Their ability to replace losses exceeds our capacity to inflict them. We underestimated not their courage or skill, but their organizational genius. They have made war industrial. We cannot compete on these terms." The admission cost Galland his post later that year, but his assessment was ruthlessly accurate. By war's end, Willow Run alone had produced 8,685 B-24 Liberators, more four-engine heavy bombers than Germany manufactured across all types during the entire war. The broader implications extended far beyond bomber production. Willow Run represented a fundamental shift in how industrial democracies could mobilize for total war. The plant's peak efficiency, reached in August 1944, saw a B-24 completed every 59 minutes, requiring just 18,000 man-hours per aircraft compared to Germany's 90,000 man-hours for a comparable bomber. This five-fold advantage in labor productivity multiplied across hundreds of factories nationwide, creating an industrial advantage that no amount of tactical brilliance or operational skill could overcome. The German pilots who sneered at factory-built bombers in 1943 learned a hard lesson about the mathematics of attrition. Quality without quantity meant skilled pilots dying in aircraft that could not be replaced. American crews, by contrast, flew aircraft that were good enough, produced in numbers that guaranteed replacement, supported by a logistics system that treated maintenance and spare parts with the same precision Ford applied to the assembly line itself. When the last B-24 rolled off Willow Run's line on June 28, 1945, the plant had employed 42,000 workers who built bombers at a pace that would have seemed impossible to the generals toasting in Chalons-sur-Marne 2 years earlier. The final production statistics told a story more devastating than any bomb load: 8,685 aircraft, 31 million man-hours, 350 million rivets driven, all coordinated through the unglamorous but war-winning disciplines of production scheduling, tool-and-die engineering, and assembly line management. The Luftwaffe learned too late that the air war would not be decided solely by the skill of pilots or the performance of fighters, but by the capacity of factory floors to sustain combat operations through sheer, relentless output. The Americans had weaponized Henry Ford's assembly line, and against that industrial avalanche, all the tactical genius and martial pride of the Luftwaffe proved insufficient. The contemptuous laughter in that French command post had been replaced by grim silence, and the skies above Germany filled with aircraft that flew, as one bitter German pilot observed, like they were stamped from the same mold, because they were